As green as the vegetation may seem, this may not always be the case, as our lives may suddenly take a turn. The bumpy ride on our way to Rurago village in the heart of Kirinyaga County resembles the lives of two young girls who have had a very rough time in the hands of their kin. They involuntarily took on a journey, the driver being a man who was meant to guard, love and protect them. The unforgettable and inhumane deeds can be dated back to June 2019, when a teacher in Kenyakairo Primary School located up the hill gave a report to the Gishira family members that their now 16-year-old daughter was pregnant and needed the doctor's confirmation. On their way back home from school, the girl was engaged in a cross-examination.
Niliitwa na mwalimu akaniambia huyu mtoto ako na mimba na sasa nimchukue nimpeleke kwa hospitali nipimiwe alafu nimrudishe shule manjue. Sasa nikachukua mtoto na mamake tukaenda kwa hospitali Gotv akapimwa, ngaambia ako na mimba ya miezi 5.
Tulikuja na huyo mtoto, ndio ukimuangalia unaona ako na mimba. Tukakuja tukimhoji mpaka hapa nyumbani. Alituambia yani ni kijana mwingine walikutana naye kwa njia kitu kama saa 1 ya jioni. Akamshika, akampeleka kwa kichaka, halafu huyo jamaa akatoroka.
It turned out that the girl was suffering in silence because she was warned against spilling the beans after all was done and dusted in this one-roomed mud-walled house.
Alikuwa ananiambia nikisema atanikata na panga. Sasa mimi nikasikia uoga.
She was at home when the man who became her father, after wedding her mother back in 2017, the very hand that was meant to guard her, turned against her.
Nilikuwa nyumbani. Alafu akaingia kwa nyumba akanishika. Akanitoa nguo. Akanifanya tabia mbaya. Akinimaliza mimi nikatoka nikaweka nguo nikaanza kuosha vyombo.
Now the girl had to endure the 9-month burden that has since left her with a deep invisible scar, too deep that it can never be erased. Little did the family and even the Rurago community know that even after evoking pain on his firstborn daughter, the secondborn, who is now 14 years old, will fall victim. In the month of August last year, their aunt paid a visit, only to find the 14-year-old bursting into tears. Upon confronting the village elder in charge, they found that the teen was also pregnant.
Nikamuuliza nisanji nini inaendelea, akaniambia hata yeye aliambia mtoto ako na mimba na mtoto amemwambia ni babake anamshikanga. Mimi nikaanza kulia, nikauliza nini nitafanya nini? Watoto ni wawili, nifanye nini?
Mtoto akaniambia mamake alienda kwa shamba kuvunia ng'ombe nini majani. Alipoenda babake alimtuma ndani ya nyumba. Akamwambia iko kitu ambao babake anataka. Alipoingia ndani ya nyumba naye babake akaingia pia. Akamwambia atoe suruali. Ndipo nikauliza mtoto, alipokuambia utoe suruali kuliendaje? Akaniambia alimwambia asipotoa atamdunga na kisu.
Kulikuwa kama sahi, akanishika kwa nguvu akanipeleka kwa kitanda. Alafu akanitoa nguo zote, akanifanya hiyo tabia.
She went ahead to reveal that her father was not for the idea of her keeping the pregnancy. After some time, he fled.
Alipatia mama yangu pesa, akanipeleka hospitali, niende nikatolewe. Alafu hii siku nyingine akatoroka.
He gave me 700 shillings to confirm the pregnancy in hospital. And because it was too late, the doctors said we could not terminate the pregnancy.
The two dreadful occurrences left the family and the Rurago community in shock, a community that fully condemned the act, saying he should reap what he sowed.
Tukasikia usungu, tukaona amefanya vibaya, hebu akae huko. Ni yeye alipenda aende huko kwa sababu ni alitenda hiyo vyote vitendo.
Hakufanya mzuri, alifanya mbaya. Juu kuna watu wengine kama wanawake wengine na angelienda kwa wao badala ya kwenda kwa watoto. Tena kisha na maana kuna na bibi.
I am not happy. The girls don't go to school. I am always troubled, deeply troubled.
John Gishira, an Akorino church member, is among the few perpetrators who have been sentenced for their unforgiving cruelty. He was arrested in Mbeere South in Embu County and taken to court. While before the Farisho Law Court, Gishira pleaded guilty for defiling his two teenage daughters and was sentenced to 140 years in prison.
This court is minded to consider a sentence of imprisonment and for a period of 70 years for each charge. Further, considering that there were two victims which aggravates the offense, these sentences shall run consecutively.
As for the girls, they have not reported back to school yet, despite the government's directives that all girls, whether pregnant or having delivered their children, should report back to school. Discrimination and stigmatization while at school is their greatest fear.
Assistant chief na chief wanatuhimiza sana tuwe tukiingia kila boma tuwe ule mtoto ambao haendi shule tunampeleka shule. Wanaenda huko ndio tujue kama watarudi shule, juu wajua mtu akiwa na mimba na shule atachekelewa na hao wengine, lakini ataenda tu.
On the 19th of January, the girls were accompanied by their aunt at the Farisho Law Court. The court ordered that the 14-year-old girl should be taken to a safe house in Murang'a County for care until she delivers, and while she is there, the family was ordered to prepare a proper home to accommodate her once she returns. The Holy Spirit of Zion Church, where Gishira was a member, condemned the act as hypocrisy. Church leaders say that if the matter was reported after the first girl fell victim, maybe the church will have taken action against him.
Tukiwa kama kanisa, sasa tukashindwa sasa. Kama wangesema ya kwanza, tungechukua jukumu, tuwe tunasaidia huyu mwingine. Sasa tutawasaidia nini? Kwa maana hata sisi tulikuwa tunastuka. Kwa maana sisi mambo yetu ya kanisa hatufanyi mambo kama hayo. Na hatujafanya tena, hakuna mwingine alifanya. Huyu Gishira ndiye wa kwanza. Ndio tunastuka.
Hata ukiwa tunahubiria ndani ya kanisa, mimi hazikujua na kujua kimwili, lakini kiroho mimi sikujui. Kwa sababu mama alifanyika, alikuwa kama hypocrite. Kwa sababu sikuona ati anaweza fanya mambo kama hayo. Na hivyo hata sisi tulistuka. Hata mimi nilistuka.
The church completely detached itself from the heinous act, saying everyone has to be responsible for his or her own actions. They must carry their own cross.
Mtu akifanya vile anapenda, sisi hatujui. Kwa maana mambo ya Mungu ni wewe utajua vile utakaa. Kwa maana Mungu anasema usifanye hii, usifanye hii. Na mimi nakusomea, nikwambia usifanye hii, usifanye hii. Ukifanya nitafanya nini? Sio hiyo ni mambo yako wewe mwenyewe. Sasa ndipo nilisema mtu abebe mzigo wake mwenyewe.
Authorities from Gasharo sublocation stepped up to issue a firm warning, saying that there are repercussions to such perpetrators, and now their eyes are wide open.
So remember, someone is watching. Government is watching, the society is watching, and everybody is watching. So you'll not have a place to hide or to run.
Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Sexual and gender-based violence still lingers in the city, robbing the peace and smile of everyone it strikes, the young and the old. Shelters or safe houses in Nairobi are home to survivors who have fallen victim. For the safety of gender and sexual-based violence survivors from this safe house, its location and identity will remain undisclosed. About 400 girls have passed through this shelter on their journey to finding justice. Unfortunately, only 4 have been successful in attaining justice against their perpetrators, as the rest still hope for the same.
At least we have 4 cases which have ended. Yeah, the first case, the perpetrator was jailed for 20 years. The second case, the perpetrator was jailed for the same 20 years. The third one for 15 years, and the other one for 10 years. Yeah, and the girls went back home to their parents. Others were placed by a caregiver. We still have girls who have pending court cases, mostly at the Makadara Law Courts and Milimani Courts. So we are waiting for justice.
Fiona Kea has worked in this shelter for the last 8 years. She has witnessed girls streaming from different channels, either through placement by the Court for Protection and Care or through the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI. And for a period which is solely dependent on the proceedings in court, a girl can be hosted for a short period of 2 weeks to as long as even 2 years.
It might be 2 weeks, it might be 2 months, it might be 2 years. It depends with the court, with the proceedings at the court. Yeah, and it depends with the officer who is in charge of the case. If the evidence is found to be very heavy to be taken to court, the girl stays. If there is lack of evidence, then the case ends, yeah, and the girl is taken back home.
Among the girls who are still holding on to the shelter as they hope to find justice is a 15-year-old girl. She is currently 9 months pregnant, just at the verge of bringing forth the fruit of her womb, again from a despicable act, awaiting a DNA test to be conducted. It all began when she left up country for Nairobi upon her aunt's request in January last year, hoping to aid her in getting a job as a hairdresser in a nearby salon. But after 5 months, the very aunt turned against her and ordered her out of her house. She helplessly complied and left for the streets for a week, where she met a random man who offered to house her together with his family before being assigned caregivers by Heart Kenya, a humanitarian organization. When a month elapsed, the man turned against her. This time the 15-year-old was led into a dilemma.
Alikuwa anataka tulalane naye. Nikamwambia ako na bibi na watoto, sifai kulala na wanaume wakubwa. Sasa siku moja kaniambia kama sitaki kulala naye nitoke kwa nyumba yake.
She opted for the former and gave me a glimpse of her pain.
Bibi yake aliamka, wako na duka. Bibi yake aliamka, kaenda kwa duka, mimi nikamka kupika chai. Sasa kamka kupika chai, nikapata ashatoa manguo na mimi ndio naamka. Watoto walikuwa wamelala. Akaniambia nisiite mtu wala nisipige kelele. Akanilazimisha tu. Akishanifanya akaniambia mtu yote sijue.
She now blames her aunt, who says she is the cause of her torment and nightmare that has cost her her entire life at 15 years.
Nalaumu aunti yangu. Jalinitoa ushago. Ushago niko sawa. Niko sawa lakini alinitoa tu kastaki. Nilikata skuti lakini aliniambia atanipeleka saluni. Sasa penye nilikuja akanifanyia maajabu. Sijairudi. Alikata kunipea fare.
In the same shelter is another teenager, a 17-year-old girl who is 4 months pregnant. She was welcomed into the safe house on the 24th of December last year, and unlike the 15-year-old girl whose studies were disrupted, she is exclusively preparing for KCPE examinations from the shelter, and thereafter she will be placed back in school to sit for examinations, and for her safety, she will not return to her former school.
Kenya nafanya ni revision tu peke yake, hakuna mwalimu, unajirifesia wewe mwenyewe.
Na mtihani wa KCPE?
Mtihani wa KCPE nitafanya.
We place them back to school, but not the original schools, because that's not secure for them. So we place them in other schools which we collaborate with, and they take them in for studies. And maybe if the case is very complex, we place them at boarding schools.
Last year in December, before the Nairobi County Assembly closed for recess, South B Ward MCA and Deputy Majority Chief Whip Waithera Shege sponsored a motion on the floor of the Assembly requesting the Nairobi County Government to issue out fully funded physical GBV departments within the 17 sub-counties of Nairobi. The motion came up after realizing that the highest percentage of GBV cases are drawn from informal settlements. The motion, which was supported by almost 100% of the membership of the Assembly, is currently waiting the governor's assent. This will be done once the county gets a new boss.
The highest percentage of GBV cases are actually experienced in the informal settlements in Nairobi especially. If you go to the rural areas, you see gender-based violence is actually experienced by people who are not very well off. Most of them are living in poverty, below $1 a day, and therefore really this really touched me.
In Nairobi County, where GBV has become a daily reality for women and girls between 15 to 49 years, believe it or not, there is not a single government-owned shelter to cater for such victims. The committee realized that the government is not taking charge and brought up private and public-owned shelters. And where the few privately owned gender departments may not have adequately trained human resources to deal with sexual violence survivors, there is need for fully trained officers to take up the task.
The fact that there is not even one owned shelter by the government tells you a lot. So within the component of what we are calling the gender desk or the department, is that we are demanding, we are not requesting, we are demanding for fully trained officers. When we talk about trained officers, we say if a victim is a woman, let us have women who are fully trained officers within that desk, who will also understand these women and where they are coming from. That whether men or women, let them be trained to cater for these cases.
A multi-agency team from the community level, including chiefs and police officers, that will deal with GBV and sexual assault cases from the root cause, has been called upon to step up, as the cruel perpetrators are within the community, majority being close family members.
These victims, the culprits are still within the environment where they live. And it is the high time that one of the things that we are asking is a multi-agency team that will start dealing with these cases from the community level. Let us involve the chief, let us have the police officers, let us have the CBOs, let us have the MCAs, the MPs, because these culprits are there and they are living with us. And you can look at the data and you see the highest number are family members who are raping, sodomizing, manipulating, threatening these victims. And these survivors, by the way, most of them have nowhere to go.
The desolate state of survivors who now have permanent scars inscribed in their lives as a result of gender or sexual-based violence, scars never to be erased, have seen their lives take a total shift and a massive toll on them, their families and the community. But even as strategies and policies are mapped out day in, day out, SGBV cases remain to be a harsh reality. Nanok Lauren, TV 47.